environment, help the planet we live on. So Tiff Potter, take it away and tell us about your journey, please.
Okay, great. Well, it's fun to meet everybody on this call. I'd love to hear, maybe people who are on this call can link in with me. My name is Tiffany Potter, and I can hear about where you are in your carbon market journey. Maybe you're on one, maybe you're not, but I'd love to help you get on one. So yes, Matt is correct. I used to be a wildlife biologist, and I started out as a forester living in Alaska. I was in Oregon, and then I was hired to look at spruce fir forests in Yellowstone for the distribution of Canada lynx, which was a threatened species. So at the time, this was a dream job for me to go to Yellowstone to be a wildlife biologist and to fly around in helicopters and use snowmobiles and be on cross-country ski in the backcountry for days on end with a team of people mapping out the whole park looking for lynx. It was incredible. But you know, week after week of being at -40 in a snow cave gives you a lot of time to think. And this work was done because 14 different environmental groups sued the Fish and Wildlife Service over what they felt like wasn't really genuine work around threatened species. And although I didn't understand all the complexity of the litigation, I realized it was very expensive and it created a lot of tension. And it just felt like all my research was going to go into a drawer. And if this is what the best of, you know, the crown jewel of America is doing for threatened species, think about threatened species all around the world. I just felt like it was just hopeless. But that's when I started thinking about if people could profit from the conservation of water, energy, or forests, like that would surely get people motivated. So that's when I left Yellowstone and I went to Yale, studied environmental finance there, and right out of grad school got a job with a young startup called Point Carbon. No one had ever heard of them. Everyone thought, like, what are you doing with this Yale degree going work for some no name? But they were a small company that was tracking market intelligence around the UN Clean Development Mechanism, which was really the first framework to invest in carbon offsets. And although I was a little bit of a skeptic, I thought, okay, I'll work for this company, Point Carbon, that's gathering the data around whether or not these markets are real. And so I was hired to track what was happening in North America. So for a year, I just looked at every single company investing in different carbon offset projects with what carbon standards, with what success. And nobody really knew that this was happening back then because we didn't even have really much climate policy. Obama was gearing up. People thought Obama would pass comprehensive climate policy. But then sure enough, the Government Accounting Office, the US Geological Society found me and was banging on my door in DC trying to get the research. So it's pretty exciting though, because everybody wanted to invest in these kinds of markets. So that's when I thought, okay, this is the goal that I set out on, to be around this energy. And from there, I created this trading analytics tool that traders and brokers and hedge funds and corporate companies use to trade offsets. And that's when I got recruited to work as head of origination in a forest carbon fund. And they did some work in plantation forestry, but I felt like, okay, these markets could do even more if we focused on the environmental and social aspects of carbon markets. So this is when I started consulting for big companies, publicly traded companies, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Gold Standard. I was hired to help look at how they could grow their portfolio. Gold Standard is the second largest carbon standard that's out there. And from there, after consulting, I was asked to stay and help manage business development. And I got 4,000 carbon offset projects. And it was super exciting because I don't know how many people here on this call know about carbon projects, but they involve in everything from forest conservation to creating a forest, to creating an energy efficiency project, to doing solar. And it's just really an alternative finance stream where if you can't go to your community bank and you can't get your technology financed, you can use carbon finance to help launch the project. So what happened at Gold Standard was a company called Viridios Capital came around, and they're based in Sydney, and they're the company that I work with now. And I had some offers from some other funds, but what seemed really exciting to me is I want to show you something. I'm going to share my screen right now. I was going to give you a slide presentation, but I feel like just jumping right into this because I think this tool is just the coolest thing. Because for most people who don't know what I'm talking about, who don't know anything about carbon finance, this tool is one attractive thing about why I came to Viridios. So Viridios Group has Viridios Capital, where I'm head of origination, and I look at where we could place capital into different carbon offset projects. But then we also have Viridios AI, which is a carbon pricing tool here, or VAI runs a carbon pricing tool. And then there's Viridios Tribeca, the VT Carbon Fund. So of the Viridios group of companies, this is part of a different company that I work in, but one of my favorite parts of it. So as you'll see here, there are 16,000 carbon projects in this tool. And so if you want to start to understand the market, it's a good place to go because you can look at everything. Like, let's say you're like me and super interested in nature-based solutions. You can go down in here. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, few. Okay, I couldn't hear you, so I was worried. Okay, so here you can look at, so there's 16,000 projects. You can look at, let's say we just looked at all the forestry projects. So there are 1,700 ag and forestry projects. Now let's just say you wanted to just look at blue carbon offset projects. Blue carbon is one of the hottest parts of the carbon market. Here, what you can see is you can look at the name of the project, the standard, the geography. You can look at what impacts they have. Sustainable Development Goal is SDG. So let's go into one of my favorite projects here. And it's called the Delta Blue Carbon Project. It's in Pakistan. And what you can do is you can look at this tool and you can see where it is. So this is a mangrove project in Pakistan. You can see who developed it. You can see in what country they developed it. You can see what comps, like real estate comps when you buy a property. You can see what other projects are similar. And then you can see what's the issuance to retirement rate. How many carbon credits have been issued and how many have been retired. And then the best part is you can go into this tool and you can see how many dollars per ton this project is trading at over different vintages. So a lot of people don't know that the carbon market has become quite sophisticated. And so I'm going to show you all these different vintages here. But looking at this tool, it's showcasing a range between $32 to $40 per ton. And what you can also look at is how many carbon credits have come out of the project per year. You can also look at the impact of the project, what SDGs are associated with it. You can also look at the community and conservation and biodiversity or community and biodiversity standards are affiliated with it. And you can even look at a rating if there's a carbon rating on it. So you could even go in and say, you know what, I want to buy or sell 50,000 tons of this. So what I love about this tool is that for a person like me who's an originator, where I'm placing capital into these projects, I can look at, I can get in touch with other people who are selling these credits. I can sell credits on this platform, and I can figure out what the credits really are valued at. So if somebody's trying to pitch me, I can say, okay, how many dollars per ton are you looking for your project? And if they say, Tiff, I'm looking for $60 per ton, I can see really quickly if it's overpriced or not. So I love this tool. There's a second part of this tool that's the best. And this is where if I have a new project developer coming to me pitching a project, let's say they want to do a forest conservation project in Indonesia, they're going to develop a couple different sustainable development goals, like maybe they're going to do a life on land, they're going to add a lot of biodiversity, maybe they do some clean water aspect, they do something with gender equality and training women and men equally. You can see here what there's a predictive tool that will show you how much these credits would be worth. If you want to make sure the project has even more impact and you develop all the UN SDGs, you can click this little button and you can see a project with as many SDGs as possible could be worth as much as 22 or 23 USD per ton. So there's lots of cool market data in here, and I'm going to just stop that. But what I want to share with you is Viridios is really interested in investing in the best of the best nature-based solution projects in the world. And on my journey that I've come from, like being a lynx biologist in Yellowstone to now, what I've seen is somebody pitched me a forest conservation project in Montana, in the Sealy Swan region. That was exactly the same place that I used to take my staff to teach them how to track lynx. And I thought, okay, this is exactly why I got into the marketplace, that I could have much bigger, broader effect using environmental finance than just being a biologist alone. So some of the exciting projects that I'm working on, one of my favorite projects out of the 4,000 ideas that I saw at Gold Standard was this project involving seaweed. And so what happens is in South America, there is so much nitrogen flowing down the Amazon from the conversion of forests to corn and soy, that it is just feeding the seaweed sargassum blob. And maybe some of you guys have heard about it, but it's washing up ashore in Florida. And it's just ruining the Playa del Carmen, the Cancun, the Tulum experience, which I love going there. And if you go down there now, there could be tons of seaweed that could be picked up and taken to a landfill, but you could have a hard time swimming because the seaweed is just there. And it has arsenic in it. It has different gases in it that can be an irritant, and it can prevent sea turtles from getting out off the beaches. It can rob the water of oxygen. And so this one company that I found at Gold Standard was called Carbon Wave, and they take the seaweed, and instead of it going to a landfill, well, it would belch methane, it can be turned into different products. It can be ground down into sand, and then it can be 3D printed into objects. It can be squished, and you can take the biostimulants from the seaweed, and it's really good in an agriculture setting. You can squish it, and it makes a really good emulsifier, which is used in cosmetics, which also is a leading driver of deforestation. Palm oil is normally used. And so I worked on this new carbon methodology at Gold Standard, and allows a project developer to get carbon credits for the pulp that is not going to be used in this scenario, that is just otherwise going to go to a landfill. So it's a totally new project. It's very transformative because this problem is relatively new. It started emerging around 2015, and nobody knows what to do with all this sargassum. It's just really gross. And we are trying to upset all kinds of supply chains. The seaweed can also be made into bioplastic. It can be made into a bioleather. And we're trying to get people who are buying petroleum-based products with this stuff to switch and think about this alternative of material that could be used instead. So I feel like if I've taken this leap of faith in this market, those kinds of projects are the best of the best that I can think of that are really transforming livelihoods. The tourism industry has been poorly impacted all across the Caribbean from the sargassum. And if we can use the carbon credit to finance putting people to work, both collecting the seaweed and then making the products, and these 3D printing machines could be put on small islands where there isn't the ability to manufacture, and they could start printing things, tchotchkes and all kinds of things. We're working on a relationship with Kohler to 3D print sinks. So we're just trying to be super creative with this project. And so that to me is one of the best parts of carbon finance, is it allows a lot of creativity to go in there and rethink about how things are done. But there's a couple of other amazing projects that we have here at Viridios too. We're investing in forest conservation in Cambodia, in Africa, in Brazil. We're looking at some pretty cool projects also in Papua New Guinea, and trying to do amazing things with using environmental finance to really support nature-based solutions. So I think that's about my 10 minutes there, but it's a pretty exciting field. It encompasses a lot. I've worked in all different carbon offset types, whether it's renewables, energy efficiency, carbon capture and storage, like underground, nature. Some people hear my background and think I only know nature-based solutions, but I can talk carbon finance all day long with whoever wants to talk to me. So if you have an idea for a carbon project, you have money to invest in a fund. Our VT Carbon Fund is still open, and we're opening a Cayman vehicle and a London vehicle, and investors can give us money and learn about carbon markets, and we can either create credits for you, or you can benefit from the returns of the fund. We also do IMA's individual managed accounts, and you can also just directly buy credits from us if you want to be a trader and access our tool, our carbon pricing tool, for 2 free weeks, no questions asked, or subscribe to the tool longer term. So that's my 10 minutes, but thanks for joining. I'm super excited to talk to carbon finance with anyone who will listen. So find me on LinkedIn and let's keep the conversation going.
Cool, Tiff. So a couple questions for you. So You mentioned some funds. We had Carbon Growth Partners on earlier. They were part of more of a forestry, nature-based solutions panel during the first session. They have, I know, pretty high minimums, have had some very high returns. Their first year was like over 60%. What are your, minimums like for the fund or for an individually managed account? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for our fund, we are doing now $1 million minimums. For managed accounts, it's typically between 2 and 20, but I think it could be negotiable. And our fund last year had returns at 25%.
Nice. So definitely institutional money's going in here. They're making competitive returns. Are you familiar with Carbon Growth Partners, and like how does your strategies, how are they similar? How are they different maybe? Or maybe speak to kind of as your strategies, like, is it more of an index fund, or are you using your pricing tool to find pricing discrepancies that you think will be good, buy and hold, or you're short-term trading them, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we're a little different than Carbon Growth Partners. Mainly, we're laser focused on investing in nature-based solutions with as many SDGs as possible, almost all 17 SDGs. Our fund now is starting to also shift to focusing on ACCUs. ACCUs is the Australian Carbon Credit Unit. And the ACCU market is a compliance market that's a little bit more like the VCM, the voluntary carbon market, than a traditional cap and trade market. And there's some pretty attractive opportunities with investing in nature-based solutions in Australia. I would say that we're pretty much dominating the Australian carbon market to some degree, which is unique from other funds. So that's attractive to some of our investors. But we have also unique experience in the voluntary carbon markets and originating nature-based solutions, mostly RED, which is reducing emissions from degradation and deforestation, and tropical deforestation, and very high impacts there. So most funds have a lot of diversity into other offset types. And we're really focused on super high quality, many social impacts of a project. Like that's where we're focused. And we have a really strong team of originators that all have, like myself, I've been in the market since 2006. Most of the players at Viridios have had experience back since 2006 when the market really got going. So I think if you were to look at our bios and our team, I might just quickly show you this. Our team is, well, I think I turned it off afterwards. Oh, no, here it is. Our team is really unusually sharp. And it was one reason why I came here, is if you look at the bios, the CEO and founder of the fund went and curated like the best of the best people. He went around and everyone is such an all-star. So here are some of the players. Jeff and Eddie, they have been trading in carbon markets since 2006. Marcelo, who's the CEO of Viridios AI, he was at Morgan Stanley, is an AI expert. Bertrand just has a lot of experience working at banks and trading. Sarah is just an all-star in the ACCU market. If you go and you read every person's bio, it's just a game of all-stars. So it's really fun. So I would say our team is uniquely different in that it's just a really high caliber team.
Cool. And clarify a little bit. You were talking the Australian market, and I thought originally you said it's a compliance market, and then you said something about voluntary, and I'm not sure if you were saying it's more like a voluntary market than a compliance, or did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, a lot of people don't really understand the ACCU market. It's the Australian Carbon Credit Unit, and it's required by law. So when carbon markets are created by laws, people typically see that as a compliance market. But when people say carbon markets in compliance, they often think of cap and trade. Like, for example, in Alberta, what happens, they have a carbon cap and trade system there, and all electricity providers over 100,000 metric tons per year are required to participate in the cap and trade. So